Hello, I'd like to welcome you to the 40th Annual Northeast Regional Honors Council Conference. My name is Chris Britton, and I'm currently serving as the President-elect of NRHC and the 2021 Conference Co-Chair. On behalf of the NRHC Executive Board, it is with immense gratitude that I thank you for joining us, as this marks the first ever virtual conference in the organization's 41-year history. Despite our obvious preference to spend this time celebrating education, research, and community in person, I can state with the utmost sincerity that I am incredibly excited about the next 2 weeks of wide-ranging events, compelling speakers, networking, and sharing of ideas. With over 400 honors students, faculty, and administrators attending this year's conference, and nearly 250 student presentations on the schedule, you have shattered our expectations for how big this conference could be. The theme of this conference implores you to ask questions that are not typically asked, and to confront problems with seemingly no obvious solution. If you took a look at the conference program, you'll notice a rock climber confronting the Penrose Steps, a visual paradox of a stairway with no beginning or end. Despite there being no obvious entrance to the stairway, he's decided to forge a different path and to just climb straight up the side. I hoped that those of you who presented proposals would take up similar challenges, and you did not disappoint. Your presentations tackle complex problems such as worldwide famine, mental health care accessibility, the conservation of snow leopards, and the global refugee crisis. I ask those of you attending presentations to do the same, to ask interesting and thought-provoking questions of the presenters and of your fellow attendees. I'd like to take a few moments to demonstrate the different features of this conference and how they can be accessed through our website. If you visit nrhchonors.com, you can view the conference program in its entirety, you can view the conference at a glance, a condensed version of the schedule, and you can view web pages about most of our marquee events. This is also the place where you can view all pre-recorded presentations. For this year's conference, we aimed to emulate as many aspects of our in-person conferences as possible. This includes allowing for 5 different presentation formats, some live and some pre-recorded. 77 students submitted pre-recorded poster presentations, and they are accessible right now via the presentation lobby. Each poster includes a video walkthrough of the student's presentation, as well as their poster in a PDF viewer for easy screening or downloading. We encourage you to reach out to students if their email addresses are listed to ask questions and to provide feedback. Let's take a look at the pre-recorded idea exchange presentations. 11 idea exchanges are now accessible. Were we in person, the idea exchange would be the perfect format to walk the perimeter of the hotel ballroom and chat with student presenters who had compiled research, data, brochures, pamphlets, and other materials within a unique venue to network and share information. This page showcases their videos as well as any number of supplemental materials that you may find useful to round out the experience of their presentation. Finally, you can preview pre-submitted art presentations in this year's art gallery. All art presenters will be available live to present further about their work and to answer questions about them. To view the live presentations on April 10th and 11th, you will need to access the email that was sent to you with the subject line NRHC Conference Portal. If you're watching this presentation over Zoom, then it's the one you used to find tonight's conference welcome. The entire slate of events over the next 2 weeks can be found here. Just click an event or presentation session that you'd like to view, then click Join Meeting to open up the Zoom meeting. About a day after each presentation, the portal will no longer display a link to the Zoom session, but instead a link to a recording of the session in case you missed it. These will eventually be archived on the NRHC website as well as our YouTube account. The 3 types of live presentations are paper presentations, art gallery presentations, and roundtable discussions, all of which will take place on either April 10th or April 11th. Paper sessions are formal presentations that give students the opportunity to share their research findings from any discipline on a panel with 2 to 3 other students who generally share similar research topics. Art gallery presentations are similar to paper sessions, except the students will be describing an art piece that they have created and speaking at great detail about the process. The final format, roundtable presentations, are meant as a way of facilitating direct, sustained interaction between students and conference attendees. Once roundtable presenters explain their research, you can approach the format as if you were actually sitting across the table from them, rather than in a large audience. This is a distinct difference from paper presentations, which are primarily one-sided. Now that we've discussed the different types of presentations, I'd like to quickly mention the events leading up to next weekend's live student presentations. Tomorrow, March 31st, features an address by immediate past president Kat McDonald, followed by the faculty and staff big picture discussion about diversity in honors, and a student decompression chamber on the topic, Why Honors? On Thursday, students are invited to what has been called the Ultimate Icebreaker, a high-spirited, high-energy virtual networking event hosted by Playfair, one of our gold sponsors. Next Tuesday, we are joined by author and journalist Cody McDevitt to discuss his book, Banished from Johnstown, Racist Backlash in Pennsylvania. Next Wednesday features 2 faculty and staff events, Beginning in Honors, an interactive workshop designed for those who are new to the honors community, and the Consultants Corner, which will allow participants to delve into 2 topics, honors capstone courses and honors budgeting. And next Thursday, the students are the entertainment at our annual NRHC's Got Talent. As we head into next weekend, I am so excited that we will be joined by Christine Simeriglia, the founder and CEO of Pathways to Housing PA. She established Pathways to Housing in Philadelphia in 2008, an organization that currently serves approximately 550 chronically homeless people. Her keynote speech will be followed by an open question and answer session from all attendees. As we plan to meet in person in Philadelphia for our 2022 conference, we expect to pair with Pathways to Housing as part of our community service outreach efforts. And finally, we will officially conclude the conference on Sunday morning at our conference closing and award ceremony, where we will award the Honors 2-Year and 4-Year Student of the Year and the Honors Professionals of the Year. Now that we've gone over the schedule in detail, I have a few final announcements. In a first-of-its-kind collaboration, we have paired with the Southern Regional Honors Council Conference to share 4 crossover events. Students from the SRHC conference are invited to our author talk and the Playfair student event, and as an attendee of our conference, you are invited to join 2 of their events for free. The 2 events are a trivia night on Friday, April 9th at 7 p.m., and on Saturday, April 10th at 5 p.m., you are invited to a keynote panel discussion on justice and activism across racial divides, featuring Kentucky House Representative Attica Scott. These are poised to be 2 incredible events, and we hope that you'll take the opportunity to enjoy these 2 bonus presentations this year. We are also excited to offer a virtual version of our NRHC Expo, a great networking opportunity to mix and mingle with our sponsors, as well as schools that offer transfer opportunities for our 2-year students and graduate opportunities for our 4-year students. The Expo will be on April 15th from 4 to 5 p.m. If you come and zoom around the Exhibitor breakout rooms, you will be given passwords from each exhibitor. Once you enter those passwords into a form and submit them, you will be eligible to win a prize from one of the sponsors. Our business meeting and the Student Caucus will take place the Friday following the conference on April 16th. We welcome all faculty and staff attendees and all institutional members to join us at the business meeting to provide feedback and to discuss upcoming changes to our Constitution. And all student attendees we invite to join the Student Caucus to meet our student representatives and perhaps to learn more about how to become a student rep for next year's conference. And students, because you've been planning and working so hard on your presentation, please don't forget that there is a way that your work can continue to shine forward in our undergraduate journal, Illuminate, which will be publishing its 3rd edition featuring work from this year's conference. Please visit the Illuminate website, illuminatenrhc.com, for details on how you can submit now. After tonight's presidential address, I will be back to give a detailed explanation of an online adventure that will challenge your critical thinking skills, your sense of geography, your knowledge of history, and your proficiency in conducting online research. Please join us on the first ever City as Quest. With a prize of up to $200 in Amazon gift cards, this challenge contains 10 different puzzles, each of which will lead you to a virtual space within the World Wide Web that you will be tasked with exploring in order to find the answer to a question rooted in the history and geography of the area. I look forward to explaining this in more detail later in this evening's events. This won't be the last time that I say this, but I would like to thank my colleagues on the executive board, all attendees of this year's conference, all the incredible presenters whose work is currently being showcased on our website, and those whose amazing presentations are yet to come, and everyone who helped to make this conference possible. I would also like to thank our gold sponsors, the National Society of Leadership and Success, the Southern New Hampshire University Honors Program, the University of Hartford Graduate School, the Salisbury University Clark Honors College, and our student networking event hosts, Playfair. I know that I just threw a mountain of information at you, but rest assured a video of the conference opening will be available on our website tonight if you'd like to review anything that I've said here. If there's anything that you have a question about that you can't find on the website, please feel free to email us at northeastregionalhonorscouncil@gmail.com. We will try to be as responsive as possible over the next 2 weeks to ensure that your conference experience is as smooth as possible. And now, it is my great pleasure to introduce my co-chair, Associate Professor of Health Science at Mercy College, and your NRHC President, Dr. Irina Ellison, as she presents her 2021 presidential address.
Thank you, Chris. Good evening. I want to welcome all of you to the Northeast Regional Honors Council Annual Conference. My name is Dr. Irina Ellison, and I am currently serving as president of the NRHC. I am also proud to be here today representing Mercy College, New York, as one of the co-directors of the honors program there, in addition to my role as chair of natural sciences. Over the past 15 years, I have had the privilege of being a part of the honors community, mentoring you, our brilliant, dedicated, and passionate honors students, as well as collaborating with other honors professionals from across the Northeast region. For me, one of the most enriching and rewarding aspects of being an educator is that even though I am the teacher, I learn from my students every day. Nowhere does that exchange of learning occur more often and more earnestly than in the setting of honors. This year's conference theme, Infrequently Asked Questions, Finding Solutions to Impossible Problems, implores our honors community to ask questions of yourselves, of your surroundings, of your community, and of the world around you. And later this evening, we're excited to open our first ever City as Quest, a virtual adventure that will challenge your critical thinking skills, your sense of geography, your knowledge of history, and your proficiency in conducting online research. We're also thrilled this year to collaborate with our colleagues and friends in the Southern region as we cross the divide together through several appropriately named crossover events. We hope that you will take this opportunity to widen your network even further across the Eastern Seaboard and to learn from each other through our conference. On June 4th, 1989, 2 days before I turned 9 years old on the other side of the world, Chinese troops and security police stormed through Beijing's Tiananmen Square, firing indiscriminately into the crowds of pro-democracy protesters, most of them young students, much like you. Not surprisingly, a gruesome turmoil ensued, where tens of thousands of young students tried to escape the rampaging Chinese forces. It's estimated that at least 300 and perhaps thousands of the protesters were killed, and as many as 10,000 were arrested. Interview transcripts from students earlier on that day revealed that they understood the impossibility of their situation. If they stood their ground, they knew they would be massacred. If they withdrew, they would still be killed anyway, and those who supported them would also be purged. What was the solution to this impossible problem? And this is a photo of me 2 months later in August 1989, standing in Tiananmen Square. If you look closely at the pavement, you can still see the stains of the bloody human rights violations that took place a few months prior. At 9 years old, of course, I didn't understand the gravity of what had occurred. I didn't understand the injustices and atrocities that had been committed. But what I did understand was that a group of young people had gathered to try to solve a problem together. That the problem that they were addressing felt impossible and beyond their years, but that didn't stop them from asking the question of how to solve it. And that by asking those questions and questing to find the solution, together they had made a statement so loud, it echoed around the world. My parents both grew up in refugee camps called displaced persons, or DP camps in those days. Their families, fleeing from the communist takeovers in Estonia and the Ukraine, found Nazi Germany to be the safer location. Imagine the horror that they left behind when Berlin in the early 1940s was the preferred location. They came to the US on boats with essentially no material possessions, didn't speak a word of English, questing for a new home, a safe haven, freedom to live their lives in peace. From day one, they instilled in their children the value and importance of education, which had duly been instilled in them by their parents, passing on a legacy of education. There was no other legacy to be passed on. Everything else had been taken and destroyed by the communists. Both of my parents made their careers in education. So when it was time for me to set out on my own quest in science, it was no surprise that a career in education was and is a critical part of my own path, a path that has led me to honors and led me here today. While my parents have always supported and encouraged formal education, they equally supported and encouraged their children to experience and engage in the world, to ask questions, cross divides, seek answers. It wasn't a coincidence that we traveled to China a mere 2 months after the Tiananmen Square massacre. My parents were intentional in wanting their children to understand the fight against communism, a fight their parents had fought, a fight that they had endured their whole lives, a fight that was starting at that time slowly to be won around the world. Just 3 months after our trip to China, the Berlin Wall fell in November 1989. And just 2 years later, in December 1991, the Soviet Union dissolved, effectively freeing the homelands of my parents. For as long as I can remember, my mother has had what I would not exaggeratingly express as an obsession over Wonder Bread. The clean, crisp crusts, the milky white doughy center. Of course, as a kid, I found the appeal, especially when served up as a grilled cheese in the winter or a fresh tomato sandwich with mayo in the summer. But as I grew older, I started to branch out. Multigrain, French baguettes, ciabatta, sourdough, or even the dense dark rye bread that was a favorite of my grandmother's. There was a veritable bread buffet out there that my mother was missing out on. A few years ago, sitting around the kitchen table, in one of those moments that I had come to recognize as extremely rare and special, and almost dreamlike, in that it would be on the cusp of your memory, but if you think about it too hard, it's gone. My mom got quiet and still and started to talk about her childhood growing up in the DP camps. These glimpses of my mother's childhood are elusive clues for me to better understand my mom, and difficult stories for my mom to share that are tucked and filed away in the deep recesses of her memory, preferably not taken out very often. But on that occasion, she smiled. She told me of the day that the American soldiers came to the camp. She told me of the goodies that they brought, sticks of chewing gum, which were shared among the children, not divided up, mind you, but actually shared from one mouth to the next. And when the gum ran out, slices of the most delicious treat in the world, Wonder Bread. It finally made sense to me all these years later, my mother's obsession with Wonder Bread. For her, it's a sign of hope and the beginning of her quest to the United States. See, the thing is, we don't always understand the impacts that the moments of our lives have on us as they happen. But inevitably, they do leave their imprints on us. The quests we take mold us in the ways we lead our future lives, the decisions we make, the lessons we learn along the way, the questions we ask, the next quests we take. While I have many memories from my trip to China, the most lasting impression was that the world can change. The world does change dramatically, quickly, and right in front of our eyes. During our quest over the past year, through a pandemic, through waves of racial and political violence, through unspeakable loss, through newfound hope and intentional steps towards restoring decency and humanity to our country and our culture, through the most rapid development and rollout of a vaccine the world has ever seen, we have all experienced these changes firsthand, both for better and for worse. And undoubtedly, this has led us all to asking questions, some of which we may have asked before, and others we may never have imagined we even needed to ask. Asking these questions has united us. As author and Nobel laureate Elie Wiesel said, questions unite people, and we are all partners in a quest. For while asking these questions, we have sought solutions to seemingly impossible problems. The solutions have not been easy, but the quest has been worthwhile and has invariably left indelible marks on all of us, scars that shape us, that unify us, and that will lead us to asking more questions, embarking on new quests, and unearthing new answers as we forge forward together. So now I implore you, keep collaborating and partnering, keep crossing divides, keep questioning, and keep questing. Thank you.
I'd now like to take a few moments to explain in detail a brand new feature of the NRHC conference titled City as Quest. At each conference in the past, we've had the ability to meet in person. One of the most prominent components of these gatherings is the City as Text, an immersive, self-guided exploration of the city that we've traveled to with the goal of learning more about the history of the city and hopefully learning more about ourselves. Since we're unable to explore a city in person this year, NRHC invites you on an adventure that will challenge your critical thinking skills, your sense of geography, your knowledge of history, and your proficiency in conducting online research. The City as Quest challenge contains 10 different puzzles, each of which will lead you to a virtual space using Google Street View that you will then be tasked with exploring in order to find the answer to a question rooted in the history and geography of the area. For best results, I don't recommend using Google Street View specifically, but instead a website called gpscoordinates.net/streetview, linked on our webpage. At that site, you can plug in your coordinates to see where Google Street View would take you. You can accept this challenge alone or with a group of other student conference attendees. The first person or group with a maximum of 4 group members to submit the most correct answers at the link on our website will be the winners of a $50 Amazon gift card per group member. If no one submits all 10 answers completed, the group that submitted the highest number of correct answers the soonest will be deemed the winner. If you would like to be randomly paired with 3 other students from across the region, you can fill out a form on the City as Quest webpage. If so, we will group you with other conference attendees and share your contact information so that you can meet one another and embark on this journey together. The first puzzle has been live for several weeks, but as of right now, all 10 puzzles are now available. You may have looked at the first puzzle and thought to yourself, why would someone write this using only limericks? And that is a great question. My love for limericks dates back several years to when a good friend and I began to communicate only via text and only via limericks, and we've maintained that rapport ever since. And although there was no necessary reason to design City as Quest this way, I'm excited to tell you that the instructions to all 10 puzzles are written in limerick form, so I hope you enjoy it. Answers must be submitted through the online form no later than 11:59 p.m. on Friday, April 9th. And while there are no bonus points for including comments or suggestions in limerick form, it would warm my heart to read those. And remember, your team name must include a pun. The winners will be announced on Sunday, April 11th at the NRHC Conference Awards Ceremony, which takes place from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. If there are participants who struggle with the challenges or have questions about the methodology, I'm going to host an open Zoom meeting after the conference on the evening of Tuesday, April 13th, to walk you through each puzzle and go behind the scenes about how I devised them. I had a lot of fun designing this feature of the conference, and I really hope it gives you the opportunity to not only learn about different parts of the world around you, but to network and get to know other honor students from across the region who you may have never met. In my youth, I met students at NRHC from other colleges that I keep in touch with to this day, and I hope that you'll do the same. I wish you the best for an entertaining and worldly experience. Good luck.